Welcome back to Finer Thoughts Creator, where we discuss everything life. We look at navigating life's ups and downs for entrepreneurs, authors, corporations, and individuals. We all have a story. What's yours?
You mentioned that traumatic relationship with your parents, your mom, and you said she would call you names that you couldn't even repeat, which would cut like knife to the core, and you believed them. Why did you believe these words? Were they true?
At the time, I believed they were because I had 2 abortions and she didn't know about them. And, religion was used against me as a threat and, you fear God. And I would literally be waiting for a lightning bolt to strike me. I just
Um,
was so angry. I mean, and every weekend we would get into an argument and a huge argument and fight. And we would fight in front of my son. And it just caused this dysfunction, this chaos. And
yeah.
her screaming and yelling at me, calling me all kinds of names, all because she wanted me to go out and find a husband. And I'm like, I'm 18 years old. I don't want to find a husband. I want to find a man that's going to be loving and kind and who's going to adopt my son and raise him so that he does have a good home life.
You just wanted to cover up your sin.
Yeah, I didn't want to be reminded of what I did. I could forgive myself for the fornication part. I didn't care about that, right? I mean, you're sexually active at 15, 16, 17 years old. To me, that was just a normal response.
Right.
But to actually abort 2 babies that had life, that had a purpose. In 2021, I connected with a psychologist and she was wonderful in telling me that I did not forgive myself. And I said, well, how do you know that? And she said, because look at your emotions when you think about it, you're holding on to something and you're refusing to let it go. So what is
That's
it?
not fear.
Right. Yeah. May 7th of 21, I had a vision. I was on the acupuncture table, all rested, and I was praying about forgiving myself, really truly understanding what it meant to let go of what I've done and connecting with my younger self. And I had a vision of Michael and Tamara coming to me, kissing me on the cheek on either side and just saying, Mommy, we forgave you. We forgive you. God forgave you a long time ago. Please forgive yourself so you can do what God has asked you to do. And I just laid there crying, and the acupuncture comes running in. Are you okay? I'm like, yeah, you're not going to believe what just happened. So May 7th of 21, I finally forgave myself and realized that I deserve forgiveness. That, yeah, I made a mistake, and I went back and I connected with my 16-year-old self and had that conversation and said, it's okay. You did what you did, but this is the beauty and the glory that's coming from this. And now you can go help women who have the same experiences. No one talks about post-abortion. No one talks about the effect and that
Right.
decision. But even so, no one talks about why women have put themselves in this position multiple times.
Yeah.
Why are you seeking love from this man who doesn't care about you? And who blatantly
Psychological
shows
aspect.
that.
Yes.
It's like an addiction.
Right. Wow. So, speaking of post abortion care, how important is this topic when you're encouraging other women on the same journey and they're contemplating abortion? How important is that?
It is imperative for growth, for healing, for grieving and healing and forgiving yourself. You want to have that emotional support. I know several women who have never shared that they had an abortion who have reached out to me and told me their story because I share my story so openly now. I remember the first time I shared it on a live in front of 7,000 people, I couldn't even stop crying. I was sobbing so much. And that was in July of 20. And the more I shared, the more healing I got, the more understanding. So once you share your story, once you tell someone you can trust, you're in a safe place, mountains move, your heart changes. It's really a matter of the heart to process that and grieve it because it's a loss and your body knows it. Your body stores that loss. And if you don't grieve it, it never goes away and it'll always sneak up on you.
It's interesting that you mentioned that the more you shared, the more healing you receive. And so that's important. Now, you spoke about briefly that your mom had some nervous breakdown when her mom died, and you promised yourself you would never want to react like that in terms of your emotion. So, from a tender age, you would have seen this breakdown from your family structure. But how did you use that situation to navigate your own?
Totally opposite from my mom. So my grandfather passed away when I was in second grade, and my mom had a nervous breakdown because he was her lifeline. And I was on my way to school, and my brothers, I have three older brothers, and she was flipping out, screaming, yelling, crying, and punching walls and things like that. And my brother didn't know what to do. So he called the ambulance, and they came. They actually put her back in the 70s. They put her in a straitjacket. And I just sat there and watched. And I'm like, well, what's wrong with mommy? Why is she acting like that? And she had my grandfather's picture all crumpled up in her hands and tearing at it. And just so, I mean, she didn't even know anybody else was in the room. And when I saw them take her away, I thought, I am never going to have that happen to me. I'm not going to act like that.
Yes.
And it just made a powerful impact on me. When I was growing up, every single day, every person I met said, oh, you look just like your mom. And I would get so upset. And as a teenager, she said, well, why do you get upset when people say that? Why do you think I'm ugly or something? Like,
Wow.
I don't think you're ugly. I just don't want to be like you. I didn't want to be divorced. I didn't want to be hysterical and angry and yelling and screaming all the time. And unfortunately, I picked up a lot of those habits. I mean, I'm not divorced, but I do have a tendency to push people away.
Yes.
And, I even looked up the root word of divorce because I'm like, what does that mean? It's a legal separation. You separate yourself from people because you can't establish healthy boundaries, right? And why can't you establish healthy boundaries? Because hurt people hurt others. And I didn't want to hurt people the way my mom was hurting me. I didn't want that.
Now, chapter 3 speaks on a different perspective that you took. Now, you said when you decide to focus on giving thanks, the bitterness inside slowly fades. I want you to explain your thought process because you're coming from somebody that was very angry, addicted, drinking your pain away, all of that. So now you have this different perspective. Walk me through that journey.
It was a beautiful journey, and it really changed my heart. In 2013, I came across Ann Voskamp's book, 1,000 Gifts, Dare to Live Life Differently. And there was a challenge, which I love challenges. Write down 10 things a day that you're thankful for and the reason why. And you couldn't write down the same thing, and you can only mention your family once. And I thought, challenge accepted. I'll give thanks. Okay. So every day I would look for things that I was thankful for and really purposely do it. One day I was kind of miserable. I was miserable. I walked outside. It was -6 degrees, freezing cold, wrapped up winter, 6:30 in the morning, walking my pups. The snow was so high, we had to walk on the road. And I'm walking down the road thinking about how miserable I was and focusing on the cold and this and that. And then I was like, oh, I have to think of things that I'm thankful for. Okay, what can I possibly be thankful for in this miserable thing? And then I looked in the snow, and the streetlights, the snow was streaming down, and they looked like diamonds in the sky, just like beautiful stars just glistening. And I thought, oh my goodness, that is so beautiful. And I looked at the snow, and it was white like diamonds were just glistening off the surface. And the impression was so beautiful. I came in and I thought, if I can appreciate snow, I can appreciate anything. So I really started thinking about being grateful for all the mishaps. Like, what's the good in all circumstances? One of the biggest contentions in our home was the kids as teenagers would leave a pile of dishes in the sink. And every day I'd come home from work and I'd wash the dishes and put them away, never said a word. It didn't bother me. I would sit there and give thanks for having a family to wash the dishes. Just the thought process of being thankful for dirty dishes in the sink and messes that your kids made, instead of being upset that there's chaos, giving thanks for, wow, I'm so glad I have this family to pick up after and to care for and to clean for and cook for. So that just looking at every single circumstance really changed my heart. And a grateful heart, you can't have a negative and a positive thought in your mind at the same time. It's impossible. So choose to focus on giving thanks rather than being negative. It's a choice. We all get to choose.
The choice we all get to choose. Interesting. Now, speaking about regaining control, you said, to backtrack a little, fear was your driving force. So instead of moving towards your freedom, you dove into bondage of addictions. Those would be your escape. You spoke about alcohol for numbing the pain and smoking to prevent the panic attacks. And then you said you viewed yourself as a monster murderer. What a word to use to describe yourself. And you deserve perpetual punishment. you shed some light on being grateful, but just to put yourself back into a positive mindset, you had to really let go of those words, those thoughts, those labels that you created for yourself, right?
Yes.
Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, I had to flip it. So I did a technique. I became a certified aroma freedom practitioner, and using breath work with the smell of essential oils, I was able to take my thoughts and revisit some of the past memories that kept me stuck and give myself new affirmations, new words. I mean, we're all designed by God for greatness and a purpose, and He makes everything good. So why
Yes,
aren't I good? And I
yes,
am good. And the external validation, why did I need external validation? Why couldn't I just have that internal validation, knowing that I am capable and able to do something so beautiful? So what's stopping me from doing that? I need to value myself. So, every day I would look in the mirror and just say, I'm a child of God. I am loved. I am designed for greatness. And I did it every day. I've been doing it every day since August of 20.
that's good. No, you mentioned some of the problems you were holding on to in the past, the present, the ones that run through our heads is when we don't trust someone. And then we start to conjure up in our minds how they will hurt us because of this or that. How can we navigate against this thought process, especially in relationships? You're with your spouse or your significant other, and you're playing these mental scenarios like, this person is going to hurt me. How can we navigate that?
Digging to the why. I have a 7 deep flip strategy where you just keep asking yourself why. Why do you believe that? If you look at your fears and make a list of your fears, and circle, as you're writing your fears down, how is it affecting your body? What's the emotion it's creating, and where in your body do you feel it? And then just start with the one. What's the most dominant one? And whatever that fear is, a lot of trust issues come in with fear of abandonment. Why do I feel abandoned? Why do I think I can't trust them? So for me, I was cheated on, so I didn't want my spouse to cheat on me. I was going to look for a quality of loyalty. Well, how do I know you're loyal? What have you done? What actions have you taken? Why do you doubt it? And it's a powerful tool to use to get down it. And you just keep asking yourself why, down to 7 layers until you get to that root cause. Sometimes we have to go back from, I have a practice where you go back from 0 to 5, 6 to 10. What's your earliest memory of this sense of abandonment or this fear? And fear is kind of like the general blanket. Underneath that fear, there's something else that happened to you that's stuck in your subconscious. And just being in tuned in with your body, like your heart tells you, wait a minute, something's off here. And you can never pinpoint it on your own because we're too biased. We can't look into ourselves and say, oh, this is exactly what it is. You have to have that support. So when I actually connected with a mentor and was able to dig deep, that's when I started to say, okay, now let's do it. Let's figure this out. And now I can do it on my own, but I still like that support because you can do it on your own, but there's always that third person who can come in and
Yes.
look at the overall and really pinpoint it a lot faster. Where if you try to do it on your own, it's just going to take you so much longer. And time is so valuable. We don't have time to waste. So really getting that support now and resolving it so you don't waste all that time.
Right, right, right. Now, moving on to chapter 7, the topic is brain dump. I love it. You describe it as a picture of a bowl full of wrinkly worms dropping on a plate. How important is it to constantly revisit your brain, looking to get rid of things that does not serve you? Because oftentimes we are not aware of these things, and we just listen to the things we hear or the things we tell ourselves, and it's just like an on and on process that we allow ourselves to go in a quandary.
Often as needed, minimum once a week. Doing a brain dump is incredible. I mean, you just write, set your timer for 5 minutes and just write. If you have something really dominating your thoughts, put it at the top of the paper and then just write everything that comes to mind. And once that timer goes off, stop. Look at the paper, rip it up, throw it away. In the book, I have a different process that goes a little bit deeper, but just getting it out. Depending on what you're doing, I know when I get into arguments or when somebody upsets me or triggers me, I grab a pen and paper. There's something about writing those words on paper. And, a lot of my clients will be like, no, I don't want to do that because somebody might read it. So what? But if you're really, fearful of somebody reading it,
Yes.
rip it up. Or you can use a voice app, a voice recorder, and then delete it, listen to it and then delete it. And you don't have to worry about anyone else ever finding it, but just getting it out of your head onto paper is the most powerful tool. And then the second way is voicing it and then replaying your voice. That's very powerful.